Hello there, good morning, and thanks for joining us on a special edition of TVC Breakfast. I am Azizat Olaoluwa. Today on the show,
we have restructured the entire gamut of learning, pre-varsity learning, education, based on the recommendation of the European Summit that Professor Wole Soyinka shared. If anybody, after 4 years in office, could have as much crowd as I pull at any point in Osun, I challenge that person to come and do a contest with you.
yes, indeed. Ogbeni, as he is popularly called, is the man of the people. And he proves that with the mammoth crowd he pulls wherever he goes. Rauf Aregbesola is marking his 7th year in office, and TVC Breakfast will be having a live chat with the governor of Osun State in Osogbo. Thank you for joining us. Of course, Mike and Ngozi are over there, and in a moment we will join them for that live interview with Governor Rauf Aregbesola of Osun State. Well, it's time for the news update, and Ugochi Oluigbo is already standing by. And of course, that will be in just a moment. Of course, we have to remind you at this point that Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola is, of course, celebrating his 7th year in office, meaning that he is on his 2nd term in office. He's known as the man of the people, has embarked on so many infrastructural development projects in that state. Within the 7-year period, he's been the man at the helm of affairs of Osun State. So it promises to be revealing, interesting, of course, to let you know how far he's done since he's been occupying that topmost position in Osun State. Of course, the live interview will be from Osogbo, the capital of the state. Rauf Aregbesola wants to use this to be like a count of stewardship, how he's done so far, what he has done, and what will be done in the remaining part of the year to culminate the end of his time as the governor or the 7th of the state. He likes to be called Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, knowing that almost immediately he got into office 7 years ago, he hit the ground running, and now many people in Osun State are believed to be happy and, of course, are always supporting him. And from that sort you heard is a man that puts his money where his mouth is every time, saying that if any person in that state could pull a crowd at any time, the person should come forward and challenge him. So Ugochi is ready now for the news update. Over to you. Good morning, Ugochi.
Thank you very much, Azizat. Good morning. I look forward to that interview. I just want to hear what he has to say. And to the news, the federal government has now devised a new strategy towards achieving its power sector reform objectives. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this when he met with a delegation from the World Bank and the International Finance Corporation.
The tariffs simply have to be, must be higher. What we're trying to do now is not to increase tariffs for now. And what we're looking at is how we can ensure that we clean up the whole value chain. I'm sure that you're aware of the payment assurance guarantee, which were put in place for over 700 billion, to ensure that gas is paid for and to ensure some liquidity in that whole value chain.
Power Sector Recovery Program is the name for solving all of the problems that we have identified. That's why I told you it will address billing, it will address metering, it will address distribution, it will address governance, it will address liquidity issues and debts, it will address sustainability going forward tomorrow, it will address PPAs, and if we can solve one side of the value chain, which is generation, if we can solve transmission, which is able to wield the power, clearly the partnership and the skill set that solves 2 out of 3 problems must be dependable enough to solve the last mile, and that I say that we will do.
And we remember it was just this month that Kaduna State laid off about 22,000 teachers who failed a competency test, and now the government has sacked more than 4,000 local government workers. The RFI-led government says the system is overbloated with staff earning salaries they do nothing for. 3,100 of the staff were retired and the appointments of 883 terminated. The retired staff will be paid 3 months' salary and pension entitlements, and the rest will receive only 1 month's salary.
The exercise is nothing other than corrective measures to position or to reposition the local governments to serve the people better. Only Bunungwari local government is healthy. All other local governments need one intervention or the other to remain afloat. So as far as government is concerned, government has really fulfilled that at least obligation.
And now to oil business, Amnesty International is accusing Shell Development Company of Nigeria of complicity in crimes committed by the Nigerian military in Ogoni. The rights group says its records, internal company documents and witness statements show Shell played a role in the murder, rape and torture of some citizens in Ogoni. Amnesty International alleged that during the Ogoni crisis, Shell and the Nigerian government operated as business partners and had regular meetings to protect their interests. In its report, it alleged that the crimes were as a result of the military's campaign to silence protests against Shell's pollution of the area through oil spills in the 1990s. An Abuja High Court has adjourned till December the 5th proceedings in the matter of the federal government against the Senator Hama Misal. The senator representing Bauchi Central is standing trial on 5 counts of injurious falsehood, a crime he allegedly committed against the Inspector General of Police. But the prosecution is seeking to increase the number of charges to 7, just as the senator, through his lawyer, is asking for summons compelling the IGP to appear in court to provide evidence. The presiding judge, Ishaq Bello, joined the matter till the next trial date when it would be determined if the police chief would be summoned. At least one opposition supporter was killed and 3 others injured in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, as President Uhuru Kenyatta was sworn in for a second 5-year term. Some witnesses said the man had been shot by the police, but a statement from Odinga said 5 people were shot, including his daughter's driver. The opposition planned to hold a prayer meeting, saying it wanted to commemorate the lives of Odinga supporters killed during confrontations with the security forces over the election period. Riot police sealed off the scene of the rally and fired tear gas at residents.
I'm here for my right, and I don't know why are these people defecting my right. Yes, and yet there has to be the right there. Why won't you have our right here? They're bullshitting us about tear gas. Are we the animals in the forest?
And that's the news update. We bring you the weather report of major cities across Nigeria, and the breakfast show continues after that.
Glad to have you back. Now it's time to take a look at the stories on the front pages of national dailies today. And joining me to do justice to it is a public affairs analyst and columnist, Ayodele Adio. Good morning to you and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, let's go straight to it. The first paper here is The Punch. The major story on the front page is Buhari approved Malami's meeting with me. That's claims minor, and there's an excerpt of his statement here that when this government came in, the president gave the nod that go and sit down with Minor. I have given you the approval. They sat down with me after the security agencies had cleared me of any wrongdoing. Minor finally spoke yesterday, sent a video to a media organization in Nigeria. And he said all this, that in fact, he even helped the Buhari administration recover about 1.3 trillion naira, which of course, I doubt the government ever talked about.
Well, it's becoming the more you look, the less you see. And the story keeps getting confusing each time there is a release in the newspapers or on the television. But I still remain and maintain the very pertinent questions I keep asking. if the man is who he claims he is, and if he's helped the Buhari administration, why is it that in the first instance when the story broke out, you know, the Minister of Interior distanced himself from Malami, you know, denied that he wasn't the one who reinstated him? Why did the president order the sack, you know, of Maina? Why did the press person of the president come out to lambast Maina? So, I mean, all of these things is just looking like a fantastic PR spin for me.
It doesn't seem, anyhow, if true or not, that maybe the government, if true or not, is trying to do right by the people because of the outrage that followed the realization that Maina had been reinstated because Maina claims that he was never sacked in the first place.
This is not about the outrage of the people. If you're going to do something right, do it right. It doesn't matter the outrage of the people. If you're on the right path, the onus is on you to prove to the people that you took the right decision. Maina has claimed that he has court judgments, you know, against the security agencies who took him to court. The federal government should produce those court judgments to the people.
He was never taken to court.
Exactly. Anyway. So show the people the documents that you know allowed you facilitate his return back to public service, and it must be a fantastic document for you to even earn him a promotion. So show that to the people. Tell the people that he's helped you recover looted funds of 1.2 trillion naira. Make it clear to the people. But what you did immediately the story broke out was to sack him, was to smear him in public, and now he's claiming that he's
someone that was provided with security.
So, I mean,
anyway, we'll wait to see how the president and the Attorney General of the Federation will respond to this allegation leveled against them. Okay, another story here is, let's take this one on security. Ending Boko Haram war now depends on political class. That's immediately under the major headlines, and that's according to the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, saying that the army has done its part. It now depends on the police, the political class, the intelligence community, and Nigerians in general for them to be able to capitalize on the gains made by the military. And you know,
I mean, I completely agree with General Buratai, because I've argued consistently that you cannot win the war against Boko Haram with just tanks and boots on the ground. And of course, the soldiers have done a tremendous job. You need the political class to do the needful in the northeast. The northeastern part of the country is the most impoverished part of the country. The average poverty rate in the northeast as we speak today is about 75% to 80%. I mean, I worked in a small hospital in Damaturu, Yobe about 8-9 years ago as a lab attendant, you know, in the hospital. And I saw consistently men leaving and abandoning their wives in the hospital and then looping because they could not afford a simple 1,000 naira for lab analysis, you know, for their wives. There are millions of people in the northeastern region who have never had a 3-square meal. So until you deal with the poverty in that particular region, I mean, I put a phone call to somebody there yesterday, and I asked him, you know, how the farming season has been. The weather is displacing millions of small subsistence farmers in the northeastern part of the country. Families are stranded. They don't have food. Incomes of farmers are completely eroded. So until there is political leadership to ensure that the poverty in that region is dealt with, bullets and tanks will not reverse the ideological war that the Boko Haram seems to be winning in that region.
Indeed, and of course, the international community has constantly, and even the international bloc branch of the United Nations talked about famine in the northeastern part of the country, apart from the security challenges there. So we'll move on to the next paper now, the Vanguard. Major story here, Buhari didn't ask us to clear salaries before Christmas, and that's according to the governors. We are not owing arrears. Those are governors Dixon, Obaseki, Okowa, Aregbesola, and El-Rufai talking that they are not owing arrears at all. And then Bayelsa, others still owe workers salaries. NLC insists. So
what are they owing the workers?
Exactly. What are they owing? Would you expect the workers to start talking about?
You know, the hypocrisy of these governors, or some governors, is absolutely nauseating. On the one hand, you claim that the federal government cannot dictate to you, you know, what you do with the Paris funds that are repatriated to you. But on the other hand, you go cap in hand to the federal government begging for monies for to run your states, because without the federal government, most of your states will be bankrupt, completely insolvent at the end of the day.
Indeed, and just now we have a story of 35 states. Also,
exactly.
Apart from
you
Lagos.
You want to ask the question.
To collect 800 million naira each.
You really need to ask the question how governors are running their states, not being able to pay salaries for 6 months. How do these people feed their families? For 9 whole months. How do they feed their families? And here's the talk about nipping corruption in the bud. Beg, borrow, steal, the guy is going to balance the books.
All right, 2018 budget projections unrealistic. That's according to senators. The senators are already picking holes in the 2018 appropriation budget. And of course, it brings to mind again the warning, they already gave out just last week that Nigerians shouldn't be angry if at the end of the day they are not able to pass the budget by the target of December.
We've talked about this even right in the studio before, that the unrealistic assumptions in the budget might be the one that's going to, be the greatest albatross to the implementation of the budget at the end of the day. I was in shock that Senator Ahinara Baribe, was visibly angry in the Senate when he talked about the fact that the 2017 budget, particularly the capital part of it, only 15% of it, had been, implemented, not just up to 20%. Sure. So you haven't even implemented the 2017 budget halfway, and here you go, ringing the bells of salvation for the 2018
But can we say that it's the sin
budget.
of this administration? It seems to be the problem bugging every administration year in, year out, the under-implementation of every budget, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, it seems to be a lingering problem. you wonder whether it's a capacity problem. You wonder whether it's over-ambitious estimates that go into the budget and the planning process. Whatever it is, these things need to be sorted out going forward. We cannot, close to the end of the year, you've just implemented just 15% of your capital budget. That's failure by any standard in the world at the end of the day. So I wasn't surprised that the senators were visibly upset, and some of them didn't feel it was necessary to even debate 2018 budget. Okay,
another story here under the major story, 120 billion naira bribery allegation. FG increases charges against Misal. That's Senator Misal, the one that senator that has been accusing the Inspector General of Police of corruption.
Help me understand.
Mind-boggling corruption.
Really, help me understand how the federal government is the one taking up the battle for the Inspector General of Police. Just help me understand. I cannot reconcile it. The Inspector General of the Police, of course, has the right to seek redress in court if he feels his character has been smeared. But the right thing for him to do, is to get his own lawyer and file the case in the court. Why the federal government has to do that on behalf of the Inspector General of Police when they have not been accused directly is something I just cannot reconcile.
Okay, so let's quickly go to the Daily Sun. Maina, thieves surround Buhari, reveals how he recovered. Yeah, we talked about that story on the front page of the Punch. So let's go to this one. Police rearrest 3 Bado suspects, declare 2 others wanted. Sadly, it seems that the Bado cult group is on rampage again in Koredu.
We just need to, there are a lot of things we need to reform in this country, and one of the things that will top the priorities for me is our internal security. Our internal security, particularly the police, needs to be restructured. They need to up their game to be able to maintain the peace in communities across the country. Whether that gives credence to the debate for state police, well, whatever it is that we need to do, we just need to get internal security right.
Well, those are the federal level, and even the IGP will tell you that state police is not the way to go. Okay, quickly to the last paper, The Nation. Workers threaten governors over Buhari's pay directive. Unionists, defaulters will be voted out. Governors, President didn't tell us to pay all salary arrears. And of course, from the previous paper, The Vanguard, we saw that the governors were saying that, in fact, we are not even owing, most of them saying we are not even owing salary arrears. So do you foresee a showdown, really, in some of the states?
Well, I don't foresee a showdown, but I expect that the NLC will put their foot on the ground. Workers need to earn a salary. Listen, it's a different case if you tell me that, of course I know that the civil service, even at the federal and state and local government levels, are over-bloated. Then find the courage to do the needful and reform the civil service. People who you feel are redundant, who are unproductive, weed them out of the system. You need to find the political courage to do that. But if you have to retain the services of these people, they need to be paid their salaries as at when due. They have families, they have dependencies. You cannot just keep a straight standard for months and you don't pay salaries at the end of the day. I understand the argument that some governors make. They tell you that the civil service is just a small subset of the entire population in a state, that we cannot allocate all the resources to pay salaries to, and then the other parts of the states beg, for funds. I mean, but that's just a simplistic argument. For me, it's even tokenist. Pay them the salaries.
Don't they get paid? That's the question.
They get paid regularly.
Not
the
even
political
minimum wage.
get exactly maximum wage. So pay them their salaries at the end of the day. I don't buy that argument. Please pay them.
All right. Okay. My director just told me that you still have more time to talk about this development.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, you look at Kogi State, for instance, and the expenditure that some of these governors make outside. Some governors buy cars in millions of naira for political appointees. Some governors spend monies on white elephant projects that are unnecessary, irrelevant. I'm sure you remember the stadiums in some South states and some huge hospitals that were built, that even the principals who built those huge hospitals, when he had a simple ailment, still had to fly outside the country and not patronize his own hospital.
And then statues now.
And them statues. So we keep expending public funds on projects that have no meaningful impact of the people, and on the one that really needs the intervention of government are left to suffer.
Okay, are you worried, really, if we try to go back to the statement credited to the governor of Kogi State, Bello, that those that are suffering, the civil servants suffering that are owed politicians, kind of, would you want to say that maybe some of these governors are using this strategy as a political tool to suppress some perceived civil servants, maybe viewed as not their supporters?
That's too simplistic an argument to make. How do you even know who's supporting who? Do they carry voters' cards? Do they carry their what do you call it now? Their the cards of political parties as a badge? They are political at the end, but that's not an excuse for me. We just don't want to learn lessons in this country, I tell you, sincerely speaking. The reason that we have a chaos in the northeastern part of the country is because systematically over the years, the governments in that particular region have abandoned their people and left them in penury.
In fact, what are they doing now?
What are they even doing now at the end of the day? You have the highest amount of out-of-school children, close to 10 million. I mean, the amount is more than Pakistan and Sudan put together.
Malnourished children
over 10 million.
As well.
And you still have people who are driving the finest cars, throwing mega parties, celebrating frivolities at the expense of the people that they govern, on whom they exercise authority over. I mean, this is completely absurd. People need to be paid. And we can't continue having leaders who talk down on us, who look down on us, who disrespect the people as if we're doing them a favor.
It's disheartening, really. Okay,
really disheartening.
So let's go to the top story atop the masthead of the nation, top left. Adamawa governor won't follow Atiku, pure and simple. He says he's not interested in cross-carpeting with the former vice president of Nigeria.
Well, let's be patient and see what happens in 2018. Anybody can say whatever they want. Even Atiku had said that the APC was his last bus stop.
Exactly, so that if he was to leave, he was going to retire.
He was going to retire, exactly. So let's wait till 2018 before we know who stands where at the end of the day, because you understand the Nigerian politician is about his personal interest. And whatever political party serves his particular political interest at that particular point in time.
There are no common enemies in Nigeria.
That's where he's going to swing to.
Really. So it's all about interest, you're saying.
Totally about interest.
And of course, we know that Sule Lamido is already luring and appealing to some bigwigs in the APC to go to the PDP. Even the Senate president is being talked to at the moment.
Oh yes, I mean, he's
so as well.
Yeah. But I have a strong feeling that some of these big wigs in the APC are also going to find their way back into the PDP, because it's clear that some of them want to have a bite, at the presidency come 2019, and they do not see that they will have the opportunity, the APC, to run or to fulfill the aspirations. So I foresee, a 2018 that will be read with a lot of defections, you know, out of the political party, particularly a movement from the APC into the PDP.
Well, the PDP experienced it, so will it be strange really at this time?
Absolutely, nothing strange at all. You see, my only problem at the end of the day, and where I feel pain, is the fact that as a people, we have not been able to build a credible alternative to the major political parties in the country, which is the APC and the PDP. By now, you have expected you know, that certain people with credibility who have the competence, who have the capability to move this country forward, you know, would have been able to forge.
But then I recall you saying on this show before that politics, money in Nigeria, money runs politics.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
because most of the time, if you don't have money, of course,
you can't pretend that money does not run
it's
politics.
not about credibility, really.
Anywhere in the world. I mean, I see that we like to make this a Nigerian thing. Anywhere in the world.
The
Marco
idea
Rubio.
of infrastructure pervading almost every corner of the country, almost every political season. Would you rule it out that a lot of money goes into elections, it goes into campaigning?
No, yes, a lot. Listen, campaigns are expensive globally. Marco Rubio didn't cross the Republican primaries in the American elections, and in just the few states that he covered, he'd spent $45 million.
In the last leg of it, we've been looking at the Nation newspaper and talking about Atiku's leaving defection from APC anyway, about to go to another party, and then the governor of Adamawa State is saying that he's not going to follow him. Of course, we know that Atiku has been making efforts to build consensus, both within the PDP and the APC, so that others could join him.
Oh, yeah. You know, the point I tried to make earlier on is the laser focus that we as a people have built on certain politicians over the years might need to change. And that has to change by a credible alternative. No matter how expensive campaign financing is, if you are charismatic enough, if you communicate enough to the people, I'm pretty sure if you have the right programs that will promote the economy, that will help the business communities, chances are that you will raise the requisite finance that you need to run your elections. We've had cases where people have left major political parties, left their godfathers, you know, took on an establishment and still won elections in this country.
Indeed.
So it really doesn't, it's not an excuse to say that you have money bags against you. If you have the right message, if you have the right charisma, the right message and the right plan for the country, I think you will have a great deal of support from Nigerians across board, because people really want, you know, a fresh breath air in the office of the presidency. Okay,
but what do you foresee this really becoming for, meaning for democracy in Nigeria, the defection of Atiku, and then the possibility that some big wigs could also leave the APC for democracy?
I mean, yes, it has no consequence, nil consequences for Nigerian democracy, because it seems to be more of the rule than it is an exception. Political or politicians would always crisscross political parties based on particular interest at a particular point in time. In any case, most of these political parties do not really have coherent policies. They do not have particular ideals that they actually hold on to squarely. So when you're moving from one political party to the other, it's not that you're moving from a political party who believes in market-oriented economics to a political party that believes in socialist policies. I mean, no, it's just same at the end.
Common interest at the end of the day. Okay, let's quickly look at this one. Militants, vandals surrender arms in Ondo. Some militants surrendered lots of arms and ammunition to the federal government amnesty agency, and even part of those militants were those that carried out the kidnap of the Lagos State students some times back. They surrendered their arms, saying that they are shunning cultism and militancy. How good is that?
You know, I'm a bit worried that we consistently and have continued to grant amnesty to criminals over the years. For me, what it actually does is that it emboldens criminals across board. Listen, everything you do in government has a cause and an effect. So there are people who look at you from a distance and say, okay, The reason why you do amnesty deals with these people to drop up arms is because you don't have the capabilities to actually nip them in the bud. And that emboldening certain people in certain quarters to continue to perpetuate crime. And that's why we consistently seem to have crime going on the rise. It only changes nomenclature. So whether it's from Boko Haram to kidnappers to Fulani herdsmen, whatever it is, people keep on daring the Nigerian securities and are taking on the Nigerian securities headlong. And so I do not believe in an amnesty situation where people can just drop up their arms and then you sprinkle them holy water and all your sins are forgiven at the end of the day. I just don't buy that argument.
All right, thank you very much for your analysis. Ayodele, Adio, you've been so clear, really, on your analysis on the issues on the front pages of the papers for today. Thank you for coming to the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.